All right, so hello everyone and welcome. I'm Kasia Griffiths, biological dentist specializing in integrative dentistry. I would like to introduce today my guest, Victoria Sampson. She is a functional dentist, researcher, scientist, founder of Oralis One, which I think today there is a big step towards personalized dentistry.
Yeah.
Welcome, Victoria, and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Victoria, your career is very inspiring. Uh, can you tell us how it came from the everyday dentist to a researcher in microbiome? And how did, when you started thinking mouth-body connection? Is it anything happen in your life that you put, that you went towards that way, or just curiosity?
So I think it was I've always been quite a health conscious person. I had some family members who fell very sick when I was at university, and I think that made me really understand like nutrition and supplementation and how much of an impact that can have um when you're going through a treatment. But then what really was the big turning point for me was COVID, actually. So obviously during COVID, our clinics were all closed, so we weren't able to work. And we, in the UK at least, we were deemed as not being like a important or required part of healthcare, which I thought was crazy. And I was like, wait, but okay, I don't, what I do is more than just do a filling, I'm actually really helping people's general health. So whilst we were all shut down, I did a lot of research. I started working and writing papers, and my kind of understanding or my hypothesis was that poor oral health would increase your risk of COVID complications. So I wrote a paper and that got published, and a lot of people then started saying like, "Oh, actually, that does make sense, and maybe we should be going back to work because if we're allowing patients to get bad health, then we're going to be worsening their COVID problems." And then I started working with universities. And one of the issues we had was that we weren't able to go into hospitals and look inside these people's mouths because they had COVID. So what we did is we collected their saliva and we were able to analyze their saliva and understand what was going on in the laboratory. And we published a lot of research. And after that, I was like, this is amazing. Why don't we use saliva more often? And there's a whole microbiome that we don't really talk about, we don't really know about. We treat every single patient exactly the same, no matter who they are. Like if a patient has gum disease, we do exactly the same thing for them. And that really opened my eyes to the oral microbiome and all of the testing that you can do. So I started working with companies. I helped them develop their own oral microbiome tests. And then soon after I was like, actually, for me to have a good oral microbiome test, I'm going to have to just create my own because none of them were doing what I wanted them to do. And that's where Oralis One became, was, created.
Okay, I was looking at this Oralis one, and I've seen there is not like the ordinary test where you have the pathological bacteria and you name them and you say the amount is exceeding or not the normal rate. You also check the good bacteria and you
Yes.
check for the balance, which is I would say that's the most important because it's not only the bad bacteria which is causing the problem, but it's also lack of good bacteria.
Yes.
So they have to be in
Yes.
right balance. And would you say this is a test for everyone?
I think so, yes. I think one other thing that our test does, which others don't, is what I learned after a couple of years of just looking at bacteria was that you would have two patients who had identical test results, and one would have terrible gum disease and the other one would be completely fine. And then you start understanding that it's actually how your body responds to bacteria, and that's dictated a lot by genetic mutations. And if you're a very inflammatory person, if you break down tissues much more aggressively than someone else, but also the strains of bacteria. So a lot of the other tests, they were going quite superficial. They're just looking at, oh, you've got this bacteria, which is bad, therefore you must have disease. But that's not the case. Me and you can have the same bacteria, but I could have a really horrible strain of it doing terrible things, and you could, be totally fine. So, in answer to your question, I think everyone should technically take the test. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but if you don't have a problem, then you want to take the test to ensure that you don't get that problem. So let's say you take the test, you're 25 years old, you say, wow, I'm super healthy, nothing's ever going to cause me a problem. And then you find out that you have genetic mutations that triple your risk of gum disease, that you have no good bacteria in your mouth, that all of these things, then you could actually change that and reduce your chance of getting those problems in the future. And then on the flip side, if you already have the problem, you have gum disease, you have decay, maybe you have diabetes, all of those other issues, then this is another piece of the puzzle to personalize your care and reduce your risk as much as possible.
Have you come across the situation where the genetics was really bad towards the diseases and the gums were not inflamed and the patient was fine?
No, I've had some very young people who are like early 20s who I think it's too young for them to have major problems like severe gum disease, but already in their 20s, they're your gingivitis types of patients. They never seem to be able to, they've always got a little bit of pocketing, a little bit of bleeding gums, but it's very early signs. So no, I've never really been able to. And the thing is obviously with genetics, it's not just when you have disease, it's not genetics that only causes the disease. It's also your environment and your habits. But it definitely does significantly increase your risk.
Okay, and then vice versa. Do you see patients with very bad gum disease with no genetic problem?
Yes, yes. So definitely what I've never seen is someone who has very bad gum disease who has a perfect microbiome. That I can tell you.
Okay.
So, it could be that they have no genetic mutations, but they have really horrible strains of bacteria doing very bad things in their mouth, or they have very high levels of bad bacteria. But usually the super duo, the worst kind of combination is you've got the mutations and you have the bad strains of bacteria. And those are the ones where their teeth are, kind of falling out.
Okay, so what would you suggest to people who are thinking about getting this checked, getting the test and check because obviously we're talking also prediction. You may be fine, but your
Yeah.
genes are saying you are predisposed to it.
Yeah.
Uh, what would you recommend?
So I would say it's kind of like Alzheimer's, right? Like it's there's a lot of testing that Alzheimer's is a multifactorial disease. There's so many causes of it, and you need multiple causes to then get the actual disease. And so, for example, you test your genetics, you find out that you have the APO3, APO4 gene, and that obviously significantly increases your risk of Alzheimer's, but that doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So what you do when you find that out is you say, okay, hey, I'm going to have to be more vigilant with my nutrition. I need to, do more brain exercises. I'm going to overcompensate with all of the other factors that I can change so that I don't get Alzheimer's. And it's the same with this. So you might find out, I would say, don't get scared. Someone says, oh my God, I'm going to get gum disease. You're not. You just have a high risk. And for you, let's say if you had all the mutations and terrible bacteria, we say, okay, well, maybe for you, it's even more important that you don't smoke. It's even more important that you have a hygiene every 3 months, even though you might think that's really stupid and a waste of money. It actually isn't. And it's really important that you reduce your risk as much as possible.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, this is very good to compare with Alzheimer because Alzheimer is relatively common in people with bad gum diseases, especially
Yes.
for Pseudomonas gingivalis and Treponema denticola. And
Yeah.
I observe a lot of those as well with dementia. So, yeah, so we can see it wider, we can predict, and we can carry on prevention
Yeah.
before it appears or maybe never appears. Okay, so it looks like it's a very good step forward towards the oral health, which is practically, I always say, the health starts in the mouth. This is how I
Yes.
start my lectures. And I believe it, and I believe it that that is the case. Or we can also see things in the mouth which happen in the body before
Hmm.
anyone else can see it, and the testing may also help other people. So thank you, Victoria, very much for the introduction. I hope we're meeting you soon and enjoy the lectures in Poland.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's been my pleasure. And I
I,
hope you enjoy the test.
I'm sure we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.